You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
Good morning. Welcome to Matnair on Air. Jane Matnair, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenoff coming to you live from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. The number is the same, 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Lots of stuff coming up on the show today. Nick Ramos is the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. We're going to talk to Nick about the No Kings protests that were held around the country on the same day as someone's ego parade. And there are other protests that are scheduled for across the country. And here in southeastern Wisconsin, we're going to talk to Nick about that, among many other things. Next hour, because it's Friday, Dan Schaefer, Civic Media's political editor and creator of the multi-award-winning Recombobulation Area, will be here. Marquette University out with its latest poll numbers.
And this one,
it's interesting.
About Tony Evers.
Yep, about Governor Evers and about a number of other things. Some really interesting stuff in this latest poll from Marquette. So Dan Schaefer will be talking about that. Also, an article in Milwaukee's Journal Sentinel that came out this morning. They're back.
They're back, baby.
They're back.
The fabulous twosome. Carpetbaggers, businessmen.
Really wealthy guys thinking about, maybe I'll come back to Wisconsin and try again.
Look out, Lakes. You're about to get sat in.
Yeah, exactly. And more axes thrown. So
yes.
We'll talk about with Dan Schaefer. We'll wrap up the show, as we always do, with This Shouldn't Be a Thing. Today it's the...
That's a lot of more.
That's a lot of more. You want to stick around for that?
We're going global.
It has something to do with an event that's happening this weekend in Venice.
Yeah.
In Venice, I believe. Yeah. Wanted to start off with a very serious subject, though, briefly. 2 Milwaukee police officers were seriously injured in a North Side shooting last night. A 32-year-old Milwaukee officer in critical condition, a 29-year-old with non-fatal injuries. Authorities say a suspect opened fire on them about 9:30 last night as they were responding to calls of a shot fired. Again, this happened about 9:30 last night in an alley in the 2200 block of North 24th Place. People, even into early this morning, were still asking people to avoid the area because of a threat to the public. They were searching for a known suspect who, at this point, I haven't seen anything else. He is believed to still be at large. Certainly send our thoughts and healing thoughts to these 2 officers and their families.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy. It's a terrible thing. And we will continue to monitor this as the morning goes along. Again, last I've seen, this suspect is still at large.
Yeah.
Once we get something counter to that, we will share that with you. This that I saw this morning in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel by Caitlin Luby has the byline. The headline reads, Trump-inspired signs ask Apostle Island visitors to report anti-American information. I had to read that like 4 times.
Yeah, that's not a very. I feel like with what she was given, the sentence does it's what?
Signs have been posted at the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore here in Wisconsin, asking people to speak up if they see anything that comes across as disrespectful toward America or its history. The Department of the Interior, which manages the national park system, has put up signs at national parks around the country asking people to report, quote, any signs or other information that are negative about either past or living Americans, or that fail to emphasize the beauty, grandeur, and abundance of landscapes and other natural features, unquote. These signs at our national parks are part of the Trump administration's Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History executive order. 855.
Yeah, seriously.
752-4842. That's 855 7-5 Civic. When you're going to a national park,
Yeah.
you're in the family, taking a road trip maybe,
Yep.
going to go visit a national park. Is that the first thing on your mind, is to be on the lookout at our national parks for things that are anti-American and are negative about past or living Americans? What? Seriously, I read this morning and I thought, this can't be real. This can't be. Is this real? This is real.
It's real. It's absolutely real. It's definitely spearheaded by a group of people who are totally legitimate and level-headed in their thinking. I don't understand this at all. Like I truly have no words.
I know.
I am bereft of words on this because clearly a group of people got into a room and said, you know what we need to do? You know where there's a lot of non-patriotic people coming through? The parks.
The national parks.
You know, those hippies in Joshua Tree.
So are they upset about Native American burial mounds? I'm really trying to understand what they think people are going to report on that falls under this banner of restoring truth and sanity to American history.
Do I report somebody who was wearing a T-shirt that says defund the police? Do I report somebody who has a bumper sticker that says I voted for Kamala? Like, what are your qualifications?
Right. What are the parameters of this?
Who goes to like a national park and says, "Hey guys,
I'm looking for trouble.
Let's can we really talk about what happened in the Civil War and how the North wasn't that as good as we were led to believe? Can we just talk about that while you're on your vacation with your kids?"
No, it would be the South wasn't as bad as we were led to believe.
They were just misunderstood. States' rights, baby.
Yeah.
Well, no, but that's the thing is that's the history they'd want to push.
Absolutely.
But it's this.
The signs include a website.
Oh boy.
And a QR code.
Did they say what the website is?
So people can file a complaint from their phone.
So you can tattle at a national park.
And they encourage people to report anything that needs fixing in the park. Well, that's going to be good to know because they fired a whole bunch of Park Service people. So, yeah, they're going to need a heads up about things that need to be fixed. That's not a bad thing.
Jane, you know what needs to be fixed in Grand Forks Park? This stunning lack of patriotism.
Is that what it is?
Well, and that's the thing is like, do they think they're going to? Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the reality is. They will say in a couple of weeks that their phones and the text lines were blowing up with all sorts of reports. It's like when they looked for fraud through Doge. Okay, cool. All right. One, if these reports happen, I want to know. This is a public website in a public park made by the government. I want to see who's rounded up, because this is a very, I don't want to say comical, because this leads to darker things, because this is tattle on your neighbor.
Yes.
This goes back to, and America, this isn't the first time America has done this either.
Well, they're doing it now in Texas.
No, I'm talking about like during the World Wars. Like, you got a German neighbor, heard him talking German, tell the American government. Right. You know, so this is nothing new to this country, but this is tattle on your neighbor. And because why at a national park? This is so dumb.
Sue from Franklin, listening on WAUK, texting in, this shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah, true.
Thank you, Sue.
Yep.
John from Oshkosh, this probably must be about Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse. There are images of Native Americans flipping off Mount Rushmore.
Okay, well.
So then I guess that will fall under this mandate about reporting information that's negative about past or living Americans, or that fail to emphasize the beauty, grandeur, and abundance of landscapes and other natural features. AI wrote that.
Well, also, it's like, I went to the Grand Tetons and I was standing next to this guy and he said, "Nah, they're fine. Get him." Like, this cost money. We paid for this.
Yes.
We paid for these signs. We paid for these meetings. We paid for the website, the decisions. This is the fraud and waste. This is the stuff that Doge should be cutting out.
Yeah.
not the people who can run the nuclear facilities or the meteorologists. No, this is the stuff. Like, literally, you feel better about yourself. I want to know. I don't want to know. I don't care. This is so dumb, but yet so disturbing
and dangerous. As you said. Jeff Renicky is the executive director of the Friends of the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. He said he saw one sign outside park headquarters last month. He believes politics should stay out of our natural parks and lakeshores, and that stories connected to our parks should be based on truth, like they have for the past century.
Well,
Renicky says people don't come to our parks for politics. They come for beauty and connection with the natural world. They're not here for controversy. Other sign critics have called the signs chilling, saying they undermine park rangers and are an attempt to erase important parts of American history. They're doing the same thing at the Smithsonian.
mm-hmm.
And Elon Musk said it out loud. We talked about this earlier this week.
I want to rewrite knowledge.
He's going to rewrite Grok because Grok, unfortunately, is not giving him the answers that he wants.
Yeah.
So he's going to go back through history and correct the mistakes that were made out through history.
Well, and the other thing, too, is the way that it's worded. You know, when did America, and when I say America, I don't mean like Trump or even the supporters. I mean, when did America as a thing become so fragile that it couldn't deal with its
sensitive?
Couldn't deal with its own history. Like, yeah, Mount Rushmore is land that was taken. It was all taken. This whole thing was taken. But like, those are the important conversations. They aren't they're the height of patriotism to talk about the flaws of your country and the things that have been done to create this vast land. Yeah, they're not pretty. They don't make you feel good, but they're conversations that need to be had. And just by rewriting history, rewriting knowledge,
makes it not so.
It doesn't go away. In fact, it only makes it worse.
855-752-4842 if you'd like to join the conversation. Dale from Wausau is on the line. Good morning, Dale. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Jane. Putting up these signs in the national parks, this is part of the Trump administration trying to turn our country into a police state. Tattle on your neighbors.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That they have said something or wrote something or whatever. You know, it's part of Trump trying to make our country into a police state.
Yep.
I appreciate that, Dale. Thank you. And thank you for listening. Always appreciate that. Yeah, this whole rat on each other.
Yeah, because it starts at a place like the
it seems
parks.
Innocuous, right?
Yes, but where do those signs go next?
I would imagine that if you're going to be visiting one of our national parks and you happen upon one of these signs, you could send them messages.
Yes, absolutely.
Just check in and tell them some things you think could use a little attention.
Mm-hmm.
That's one idea.
Yeah, just a thought.
Just a thought, not saying one should do anything specific. Okay. Stay with us. When we return, ICE doing a really great job. That's on the way. Stay close. You're listening to Matt Nair on Air on the Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
Good morning and welcome to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, Calvinator on the board. Coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us, call or text at 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. After the 9:30 news, Nick Ramos, the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, is going to join us. Right now, though.
What?
It's Free Ticket Friday.
What? No, it is. It is.
It is Free Ticket Friday, so grab your phone. Open up the Civic Media app, just like Greg is doing right now, even though he can't enter. Open up the Civic Media app, pick your favorite station, and text in the word PARK. P-A-R-K. Text in the word PARK. P-A-R-K. You will be in the running for a 4-pack of Milwaukee Brewers Club level tickets for this Sunday's game. It is for this Sunday when the Brewers host the Rockies. Park. P-A-R-K is the word you want to text in. You have until the end of the show. Park. P-A-R-K.
All right.
Is the word, not bark.
Not bark.
I saw bark.
Yeah.
Come in. No, it's not. That's a P, that's a B, not a P.
All right.
Text in the word park. Wanted to spend a little time about this. We have been talking about ICE and members of ICE showing up in unmarked vans. They're masked. They're not identified, and they're essentially snatching people off the streets. They are running into lots of cases where they're grabbing the wrong people.
Yeah.
This is from today's Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel from Bridget Fogarty and Eva Wen. Detained after a routine immigration hearing, a Cuban asylum seeker finally makes his way back home to Wisconsin. Yeah, Jerez Robles entered the country under the Biden administration, and at that time, under the Biden administration, border agents were allowed to release some migrants who claimed asylum while they went through the immigration proceedings.
Yeah.
This did not apply to anybody with criminal records or anybody who had already earlier illegally entered the country. So he was in the process. He was following the process that was laid out for him. And then, of course, up until the Trump administration blew up all those policies, he had been going to his appointments. He had been meeting with immigration officials. He believed he was following the process. Most of the time, his immigration meetings were here in Milwaukee. Occasionally, he had to go to Florida, where he had first established his case. So he had to make an appearance in Florida last month, or in May. Went down there in a surprise move to Jerez Nobles and his attorney. When he showed up for his court appearance, the Department of Homeland Security asked the judge to dismiss the case without giving any reasons. Judge dismissed it. He went outside. ICE arrested him.
We've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it again until I can't say it anymore. Remember when the only thing they said was, as long as they do it
the right way,
legally. If they just did it legally, there'd be no problem.
If only, I'd have no problem with it. If only
they're doing it, but they're not doing it the right way. We do not have. I've listened to so many interviews on this, just on civic media. No one has a problem with getting rid of the criminals. But even one, they are deserving of due process.
They get to have it, yes.
That is in the Constitution. I know. Sticky situation, weird document written a long time ago. But also, we are seeing so many instances where people who are going through the process legally, doing exactly what they need to do legally, and they're just, we saw it, the woman from not Venezuela, she's from South America. She was going through the process and finally got to where she just couldn't do it. She's self-deported with her children who were born here. So that statement, that argument, they just did it the right way, is no longer valid, because no one from the Trump side is saying, whoa, they did it wrong. They shouldn't be doing this. They shouldn't be standing for this because it goes against everything they say.
Well, but again, it's they pulled the rug out from under these people who were in the midst of this process. And then now they've said, well, now we're not doing that anymore. So, we're just going to arrest you. Robles exited the courtroom with his attorney before he could even get to his wife and mother to tell them anything. Immigration agents in plain clothes surrounded him without showing ID or an arrest order. So they sent him away for a month. Now he's back.
Yep.
But it took a month.
He
was going through the process that our government had established.
But now it's like, I'm sure he's going to continue to go through the process, but now you live in fear that that none of that will ever matter because you've been taken once. What to say they don't take you again? And
according to this article, the Trump administration has expanded the practice of expedited removal. And it was under that policy that Robles was detained. His attorney argues he didn't qualify for it in the first place. This expedited removal only applies to people who have been in the U.S. for less than 2 years, and that does not apply to him. He's been here for more than 3 years, no criminal record, but now he's back.
He's back. And
I'm waiting for the apology from the Trump administration and from ICE. I'm sure that's coming any day now.
they would sooner apologize to the ICE agents, saying, I'm sorry that you had to go there and none of it worked out the way you thought, Joe. So
We have news.
yeah. Yes, indeed.
We
do.
have news coming up next. And then when we return, Nick Ramos, the executive director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, will be joining us. So stay close. You are listening to Matt Nair on Air. This is the Civic Media Radio. Good morning. Welcome to Matt Nair on Air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, Calvitini on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. You can always join us. You can call. You can text at 855-752-4842. You can also leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. I screwed up.
You made a simple and easy mistake.
I made an error. Today is Free Ticket Fridays, where you text in a keyword via the Civic Media app in order to be in the running for a 4-pack of Milwaukee Brewers club level tickets. And I gave you the wrong word.
You teased them a little bit. You know, like, hey.
No, I screwed up.
Okay.
The word is text. T-E-X. This is just going to be one of those
Text,
Fridays.
spelled T-E-X.
Text. Yes. Take it from there. You'll figure it out. The word is text. T-E-X-T. Text in the word text. Using the Civic Media app. And you will be in the running for a 4-pack of Milwaukee Brewers club level tickets for this Sunday. The game is this Sunday when they host the Rockies.
Playing the Colorado Rockies, which I was telling Jane earlier that either it's going to be a blowout because they are the worst team in baseball right now, or
the Rockies
will win, and then that's when it's the most depressing game ever.
And we'll be so humiliated.
Yeah, exactly.
Text is the word. T-E-X-T. Text. And the word text throughout the show. You have until 11 o'clock. And then Tom Hartman's show will have another keyword for you from 11 to 2. Todd Alba with a different one from 2 to 4. And then the Maggie Dawn show as well from 4 to 6 p.m. 5 chances to win on Fridays throughout the summer. Free Ticket Fridays here on Civic Media. The word right now you want to text in.
Text.
Is text. T-E-X. The traditional way of spelling.
This
This
great.
explains why no one before I didn't see any entries coming in. It's like, why is that not working?
So when you said the word, I thought it was wrong because I remember someone misspelled park during Pat's show.
Right.
But, you know, I have those moments where I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong and maybe there's a thing. So I didn't have a chance to pull it up. But then as I told you during the break, I'm not going to interrupt you while you're talking about immigration and problems with the deportation project. I'm sorry, Jane.
By the way,
we have breaking news here. The wrong word.
now we got him coming in.
Yeah, there we go.
Luann from Wandros on WLAK, Maureen and Nina on WISS. We got Jeff in Racine, Fred in Cottage Grove, Tim in Waukesha, Paul from Wisconsin Rapids, Tom, West Dallas, Carmela in Milwaukee. Keep them coming in. The word you want to text in until 11 o'clock is text.
Text.
T-E-X-T. Text is the word to get you in the running for that 4-pack of tickets for the Milwaukee Brewers club level seats this coming Sunday as they host the Colorado Rockies.
Yeah.
Some news that just hit this morning as we were coming back on the air from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Jesse Opoyan, who does an amazing job there at JS Online. Unanimous Wisconsin Supreme Court blocks UW Health Nurses unionization.
Oh, my God.
Backing Act 10. UW Health is not legally required to recognize its nurses union or engage in collective bargaining. Again, another unanimous state Supreme Court ruling. Justice Brian Hagedorn wrote, when we examine the statutory language along with the statutory history, we conclude that Act 10 ended the collective bargaining requirements formerly placed on the UW Hospitals and Clinics Authority. So this ruling upholds previous decisions by Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission and a Dane County Circuit Judge.
Wisconsin Employment Relation. That sounds so nice to say. In like, we don't want you to have rights. Now, the question I have, and this is a Jim Santel or a Maggie Dawn question, because they are lawyers,
right?
Is that so far they have not heard any cases challenging Acts 10 and 32 yet, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe you're correct.
Yeah. So my wonderment in all this is if they go through the process, Acts 10 and 32 are reviewed by the courts, and in a hypothetical, they say these are unlawful, they do not blah, blah, blah. We strike them down. They're no longer valid in the state of Wisconsin. Does that open the doorway for these nurses again to bring up the process of unionizing?
Right. UW Health nurses' last union contract expired in 2014. At the time, UW Health said Act 10, the 2011 state law getting rid of most collective bargaining rights for public employee unions, barred it from negotiating a new contract. Nurses countered hospital management could choose to recognize the union and bargain with it.
Yeah.
Fueled in part by the effects of the pandemic, nurses' efforts to unionize also followed cost-cutting measures, raising concerns about staffing and patient care. And that has been a big part of what we've heard about, is that they're worried about losing more nurses and then how that is going to affect, I don't know, the people they're supposed to take care of.
Yeah. Remember when nurses, specifically nurses and healthcare workers, doctors, but we like this country in 2020, we just could not get enough about.
We applauded them.
We clanged pots and pans. We went out to our balconies and said thank you. And this is, of course, the thanks we get. Teachers, you're heroes. You can't collect a bargain. Nurses, you're heroes. We're cutting your jobs and cutting your salary. Like, I feel like people think that nurses and these other folks that we lionize and worship, and they deserve the credit they get, and they should be paid way more. But do they think they can use that adulation to pay bills and to buy food with that?
Respect is great. It doesn't really do much when you're trying to pay your mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
Attorneys for the nurses argued to the Supreme Court in February that the hospital functions like a private employer and therefore should be governed by the Peace Act. UW Health attorneys argued that the intent of Act 10 was clearly understood to dismantle unions, and despite the fact that UW Hospitals and Clinics Authority was created in the 90s, lawmakers in passing Act 10 made it clear it was included. We've talked to some nurses from SEIU.
Yeah, and
they are really genuinely concerned about how this is going to affect patient care.
Yeah, absolutely. And also attract nurses coming into the field.
And we're having a tough time already.
Yeah.
855-752-4842. Cassandra from New London is on the line. Good morning, Cassandra. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Well, as you guys know, I'm a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
We actually just had a discussion with our HR department, and they asked us, like, how do we retain our nurses? Well, we're getting so much sicker patients, and we're getting told we have to take on more patients at a time when they're actually sicker. And I think people don't realize, like, if these Medicaid cuts go through, that's actually going to make things way worse.
Even worse. Yep.
People they're going to get sicker because they don't have the money, they don't have insurance to come in when things can get figured out sooner. And hospitals aren't going to be able to continue to meet what the market is paying in other areas for the nurses. So this is just this, like, self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going.
Cassandra,
I don't think people are understanding that.
Yep, I agree with you. I really don't think that people understand, especially when we talk about this budget bill that they're trying to ram through in Washington and what those cuts will do to our hospitals because of the Medicaid cuts, because it's all part of a piece. It's all part of the same system.
Mm-hmm.
Cassandra, if you were able to, I'm just curious, where are nurses' salaries better? If you decided to pick up and go, where would you go?
honestly, like, I don't know that I would pick up and go. That's the other thing, is like the grass isn't really that green on the other side.
Sure. And moving is expensive. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, down around Milwaukee, they get paid a little bit more, but also your cost of living is
higher.
more. And like the nice thing, what we should be doing, but I know California is like a whole other can of worms, but they actually have mandated staffing ratios out there. Like, it's law, like how many patients a nurse can take, and they get paid pretty handsomely out there. But again, it's a cost of living thing out there.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, Cassandra, for checking in. Thank you for
much.
being a nurse.
Yeah.
You're a saint. I couldn't deal with it.
No. Yes.
Too many bodily fluids. Not happening. But again, another unanimous decision by the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
It sounds like it may have been, I don't know if it's a procedural thing or whatnot. We were talking about with Jim yesterday, is that, when it comes to the procedure of it all, is that what influences the decision? So, I mean, that's a question for him.
That is some breaking news from this morning. Right now, he has been waiting on the phone from the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Nick Ramos is on the line. Good morning, Nick. How are you doing?
Jane, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm sorry that technology wanted to keep us apart, but I tell you, I'm coming in hot. I'm ready to be able to chat about the world's topics, Wisconsin topics. I'm just glad to hear your voice.
We're so happy to have you on, Nick. It's been way too long. I don't think we've talked to you since the day after the election or the day of the election. So it's great to have you back, Nick. Let's talk a little bit about the No Kings protests and what else is coming up over the summer.
Well, I like the world and Wisconsin just to remind themselves that we live in a democracy. There is no king. There's no prime ministers. We have people that we elect, and they get to have the privilege of, making decisions over our lives because we send those representatives to make those choices because we believe in them and we believe in process. But, these are some really interesting and weird times right now. I get to hear our president talk about the golden age of America. Man, does it not feel all that golden to me? It feels kind of brown, if you ask me. And, people, I think, are waking up to the fact that we need to be able to speak up and speak out when there are folks that are trying to erode what we have known as democracy. And so, around the country, there were thousands of rallies, and I had the privilege of being able to MC the No Kings rally in Madison. And I got to tell you, I mean, looking out into that crowd, feeling that energy, being able to have folks like Senator Bernie Sanders call in, or even Raphael Warnock flying in from Georgia to just be there for just a weird cameo, but like it was all love. I mean, you would have thought he was a Wisconsinite. Like, I look out in the crowd, 17,000 people show up on a Saturday afternoon, and you mean the mood. I have not been part of something so electric. I mean, people really care about democracy, and they really want to make sure that, like, we are not going backwards. We're going into a place where folks know that when we elect people that they're going to do the right thing, and when they break the law, people deserve to be held accountable. I mean, people are really electric right now, and I want people to keep that energy. So there's going to be more rallies that happen throughout, this
Nick,
couple months.
Nick, I'm sorry, we're coming up against a hard break. We will be right back and continue our conversation with some details about other protests that are coming up. Nick Ramos is the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Stay close. We'll be right back. You are listening to Matt and Air on Air on the vast, statewide, countrywide. Take us global on the app, Civic Media Radio Network.
You're listening to Civic Media. Find the latest news, information, and archives of all your favorite shows on the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us.
Good morning and welcome back to Matt and Air on Air. Jane Matt and Air, Greg Bach, Sweet Calby on the board, coming to you from our studio at Radio Park in Racine. Join us, call or text or leave a comment on a live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. And don't forget, today is Free Ticket Friday. The word you want to text in by 11 o'clock via the Civic Media app is text.
P-A.
No. The word is text.
Oh, sorry, text.
T-E-X-T. Text in the word text. And you will be in the running for a 4-pack of Milwaukee Brewers Club level tickets. They're for this Sunday's game.
Yep.
As the Crew host Colorado. Text in the word TEXT. TEXT. You've got until 11 o'clock. Do that via the Civic Media app. Right now, we are joined on the phone by Nick Ramos, the head of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. And Nick, before we went to the break, you were talking about the No Kings rally that was massively successful around the country, and that there are other things planned for this summer, right?
Yeah, I mean, the No Kings rally and some of these things that you guys and folks around the world are seeing, I mean, they're happening pretty in real time. I mean, I feel like in a way that I haven't seen this country act in the past, it's like when folks see that things are happening from the Fed when it comes to talking about cutting Medicaid, Medicare, this big, beautiful, stupid bill that they keep talking about. Like, There's just people are reacting in real time and then trying to organize on the ground around here and around the state. So it's like, well, I can't give folks necessarily, a long list of things that are happening. I have to imagine before we get to the end of the year here, there's going to be something, I don't know. I mean, I didn't think, Jane, that we would ever be talking about the potential for us entering World War III because our president decides, he can just drop bombs on countries without getting legislative oversight. It's like people, and I hear it when I travel the state, like there are so many issues that people, it just absolutely makes them so angry and they want to be able to do something. And so there's going to be stuff, whether it's about, medical access for women to be able to have the choice to decide whether they want to take a child to term or be able to, have those types of medical procedures to do what's going to be right for them. There's going to be so many big things. And so we're watching what's happening and we're trying to be nimble and swift to be able to address those things and not just go quietly.
Well, and I do think it's interesting, Nick, because at least we have found that, and certainly with this budget bill, and even going back to Project 2025, once people learn more about it, they don't like it.
Right. Well, and, I wish that, it would be great if folks heard about it before and then we didn't have to then do all the work, and be skating uphill. Yeah. But, I think it's better to know now than to not know at all. And so, folks, I mean, just continue to organize locally. We have a lot of things that you can be doing, and you don't have to be so powerless. And you can see it just takes one person to tell another person to come show up to something, and then it could end up being 17,000 people. Like, we're more powerful than we even know Wisconsin. So, let's stay active, let's stay engaged.
And something, Nick, the exact point I want to take is that there are people out there who live in rural areas up north, down south, wherever, and they say, well, I'm just a blue dot in a red sea, and I don't know what to say. And I'm going to say, and I will respond with this. Yes, there were 17,000 people in Madison, but there were 300 people in Spooner, Wisconsin, who stood up.
Spooner.
So if you look at your town, your village, your unincorporated, there is someone who believes in the same things you do. Organize, get together, make your voices heard.
Share what you know.
Share what you know.
Man, you guys are over here inspiring me to go run through a brick wall here in the way you guys are talking right now, man. Okay. Spooner, I see you from all the way down here in Madison. We love you.
Yeah, exactly.
It is very heartening, though, to see that kind of turnout in smaller communities where I think somewhat unfairly we brush everyone with the same brush and assume that everyone is MAGA, and that's not true. There are so many more things on which we agree than disagree when it comes to funding childcare, when it comes to funding our schools, when it comes to having clean drinking water. These are all things that Wisconsinites agree upon for the most part.
You don't need to be a Republican. You don't need to be a Democrat to want clean drinking water. You don't need, these are things that truly ought to be nonpartisan, but the toxic nature of our politics have changed it so that you need to be one side or the other on these issues. But here's the thing. People as these beautiful hosts that you get so privileged to hear their silky voices every morning, I'm just telling you that we are so much more in this boat together. And if we can just take the time to really be able, and it's hard because there's so many things happening, but if we can take the time to just talk to each other and have these conversations, I'm telling you, like, it's all about what we don't know, and what we can't understand is what we fear the most. And I'm just telling you that, like, don't let the fear mongering and all this rhetoric make you believe that we're, doing something that is so contrary that you don't have neighbors, you don't have people to believe in the same things you believe in. And it's like, if we can do this, we can really make sure that our democracy doesn't have to face threats against it like what we're seeing right now. But, like, people, I'm so proud of you for not running away when the bell is ringing. And, like, we have more work to do, but we can do it when we're doing it together.
Get involved. You might not do politics, but at some point, politics is going to do you. Nick Ramos is the executive director for the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. It's been great, Nick. We'll get you back on real soon. Thank you so much.
Jane, thank you. Thank you, Greg. See you guys.
Take care. We got news coming up next, and then we are going to recombobulate with Dan Schaefer, Civic Media's political editor. That's all on the way. Stay with us. You're listening to Matt and Air on Air on the Civic Media Radio Network. Text in the word text.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.